Good day, it's August 14th, 2023. This week's hottest news comes from Ohio. The people of Ohio had spoken in defense of democracy. I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould and welcome to The Pulse. Uncle Sam will be joining us from Southeast Asia on a special assignment. In a scathing rebuke to the Republican Party's attempt to take away the power of voters in Ohio, happened Wednesday last week when the state's conservative Republican Party, who controls both chambers of the legislature, called a special election, a ballot measure that would have made it difficult for anyone to place a ballot measure to change the Constitution of Ohio, by way of changing the rule for a supermajority for a measure to win instead of a simple majority. That attempt to disenfranchise voters and their power by the Republican legislature failed miserably in the ballot. Their intentionally confusing ballot measure, dubbed as Issue Number 1, was voted no by the majority of Ohioans who voted in the special election that had an unusual high turnout in summer special election never seen in Ohio. The proponents of the measure wanted to seal the Constitution that contained anti-abortion provisions from being changed by requiring a supermajority rule before any changes can be made to the Constitution of the state. But women, young and old, and young men, Republicans and Democrats, voted to defeat the measure. The proponents for the supermajority requirements were able to raise a little over $4 million for this campaign. But the opposition, coming from a vast cross-section of the people of Ohio, were able to raise close to $15 million in donations for the campaign on this ballot measure. More than half of those came from ordinary people across America who just want to support democracy and human rights for the women of Ohio. The success of the opposition to what the ultra-conservative Republicans are doing to women and LGBTQ in this red state allows a new ballot measure in a special election in November this year in Ohio that will enshrine the right to abortion in the state. This attempt by the state Republican legislature to steal the power from the people by requiring a supermajority to change the law exploded in their faces. And now they are exposed to an offensive by pro-democracy, pro-women's rights measure comes November in Ohio. What else were these Republicans in Ohio tried in this measure to trample upon the rights of voters? Here is Amy Goodman from the podcast Democracy Now!
We begin today's show in Ohio, where reproductive rights advocates are celebrating after voters overwhelmingly rejected a Republican ballot initiative to make it harder to amend Ohio's state constitution. Republicans pushed to have Tuesday's special election with the sole purpose of raising the threshold for passing constitutional amendments from a simple majority to 60% before November, when voters will decide if the right to an abortion should be enshrined in the Ohio Constitution. The ballot initiative also attempted to make it harder to submit future constitutional amendments by requiring signatures from all of Ohio's 88 counties. Preliminary results show 57% of Ohio voters on Tuesday rejected the Republican ballot initiative, known simply as Issue 1. The election results marked a sharp shift from 2020, when Donald Trump won Ohio with 53% of the vote. President Joe Biden hailed the results, saying in a statement, quote, "This measure was a blatant attempt to weaken voters' voices and further erode the freedom of women to make their own health care decisions. Ohioans spoke loud and clear, and tonight democracy won," he said. The Republican megadonor and billionaire Richard Uihlein of Illinois, who's long been a key backer of anti-abortion groups, had bankrolled the Republican effort by giving $4 million to the group Protect Our Constitution.
It's like this ultra-conservative MAGA-controlled legislature tried to tinker with a bomb, and it exploded on them. They should not have messed with the rights of voters of a simple majority. That is the way of American democracy.
Hi, Emmy and our viewers. I'm glad I could link up for today's show. The former president, whose legal troubles grows day by day, is attempting to have his most serious criminal indictment because of the investigations of Special Counsel Jack Smith be tried in the media rather than in court. He continually and wrongfully assert that this is nothing else but a free speech issue rather than a criminal conspiracy to steal the presidency from Joe Biden. He made threats and personal attacks on Jack Smith and other prosecutors, and talked about Joe Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice against him and anyone else who speaks against the administration. Of course, none of these are true, but the MAGA cult members believes whatever he says, and his lawyer, John Lauro, went on speaking tours in different media saying the same instead of seriously drafting their defense, for many believes there are none. Here's some video analysis of Trump and his lawyer from Ben Meiselas of the Midas Touch Network.
I'm Ben Meiselas from the Midas Touch Network. So the approach, I guess, by Donald Trump's lawyers in connection with the new criminal case brought by special counsel Jack Smith in Washington, D.C., I guess the Trump approach is to have his lawyers just admit to the crimes and then just say the whole system is rigged. Donald Trump's lawyers just gave a series of bizarre media interviews where they're basically like, he did it. I don't know if it's inadvertent or accidental, if it's an intentional strategy, if they're morons, all of the above. But on these interviews, they're admitting to the crime. Like at the same time Donald Trump is being arraigned, his lawyers are generating evidence to be used by special counsel Jack Smith against Donald Trump. Here, let me show you. This is John Lauro, Donald Trump's newest hire, new lawyer. I guess it's Tacopino 2.0. And John Lauro says, yeah, Donald Trump asked Pence to pause voting for the electoral count for 10 days so the state legislatures could take care of it. Yeah, that's a violation of the law.
In the state of Nevada, the Senate race is heating up. The Republican Party now has a crowd of candidates in the primary to determine who will be in the general election against incumbent U.S. Senator Jackie Rosen. The GOP crowd of wannabe senator now includes Dr. Jeff Gunter, the former ambassador to Iceland under the Trump administration, William Conrad, a retired Army lieutenant colonel who also ran for Senate in 2022, and Tony Grady, who ran for lieutenant governor in 2022. According to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, these newcomers will join the crowded primary that includes Sam Brown, Rhonda Kennedy, Jim Marchant, and Stephanie Phillips. So far, that's 8 candidates. Dr. Jeff Gunter has nothing new to say in this campaign, except for things that he only echoed from Donald Trump, like saying he wants to finish the wall to secure the border, America First policy, and ending the so-called deep state. He reportedly has donated $11,000 to Trump's 2024 campaign. But the Senate Majority PAC that is aligned to Democrats, spokesperson Sarah Guggenheimer called Gunter as extreme and out of touch. Senator Jackie Rosen, in an event in Las Vegas last week, described these GOP candidates as the different sides of the same MAGA coin in their stance on issues from election fraud and abortion. We are going to take a commercial break. Please stick around.
There needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and Aircom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
It's real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces, so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using it.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, The magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
With the many recent changes and focus on immigration law, now more than ever is the time to seek the help you need from an attorney you can trust. As an immigrant myself, I know the many difficulties and hardships involved in immigrating to this great country. With more than 10 years of experience in handling immigration cases, our firm can provide the necessary answers and solutions to your needs. Call Calderon Law today so we can work together to help you get the peace of mind you and your loved ones deserve.
Welcome back to The Pulse. The situation in West Philippine Sea has become tense lately. Last week, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel attacked a Philippine-registered boat that was meant to bring supply to a grounded Philippine Navy vessel, the BRP Sierra Madre in the Ayungin Shoal, one of the tiny island being claimed by the Philippines. It was attacked with water cannons by the Chinese Coast Guard. And this happened while the said supply boat was being escorted by a Philippine Coast Guard vessel. The attack prompted the Philippines to file a diplomatic protest against China, the attack that happened on August 5th, 2023. The incident garnered reactions of anger and condemnation for the harassment of the Philippine Coast Guard supply boat. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri said that China's latest action was the best justification for pushing hard with the Senate resolution. He was also quoted as saying that the incident was making it hard for the Philippines to love them as neighbor and friends, and that the Philippines should seek a new trade deals with other countries to reduce our dependence on China. What is the BRP Sierra Madre? The BRP initial stands for Barko ng Republika ng Pilipinas, or Ship of the Republic of the Philippines, which is used in the Philippine Navy and Philippine Coast Guard naming of ships. This BRP Sierra Madre was a World War II vintage of the U.S. Navy tank landing ship. It was given to the Philippines and became part of the Philippine Navy. The Philippines purposely ran the BRP Sierra Madre aground on the sands of the second Thomas Shoal to stake our claim in this Spratly archipelago in 1999, and has become the Philippine Marine Outpost to assert the Philippine sovereignty over the disputed islands. Last week, in August 7th, China responded by asking the Philippines to remove the BRP Sierra Madre from the second Thomas Shoal, which they said belongs to China.
The deadly wildfire in the resort island of Maui in Hawaii have already killed at least 36 people. Deadly wildfires have torched thousands of acres, destroyed hundreds of structures, and sent thousands of residents and visitors fleeing. So many are being treated for burns and smoke inhalation. According to a report from National Public Radio or NPR, the historic town of Lahaina, a very popular tourist hub, has been particularly hard hit. Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke, who took a Coast Guard flight over the fire area, said that homes and businesses had been destroyed. Maui County officials say the wildfire had already burned 11,000 acres. They also reported that 14 people were rescued from the waters of Lahaina who were escaping from the fires. Our hopes and prayers are with the people of Maui for this tragic disaster.
Still from Southeast Asia, Timor-Leste, the official name of the former province of Indonesia known as East Timor, experienced a series of events the past several weeks. Early in the month of May, the hero of the Timor-Leste independence, Jose Alexandre Sanana Gusmao, returned to Timor-Leste to run for president in the election. He was the first president of Timor-Leste when it became independent country from Indonesia after a long-running rebellion of the East Timor against Indonesia. After a UN-negotiated new republic, the election was held that made Gusmao a democratically elected president. After a few years, political and legal troubles arose, and Gusmao did not seek re-election and went on exile in Portugal. On July 1st, 2023, after winning the election, Sanana Gusmao officially, once again, became president of Timor-Leste. The country's parliament also elected its first woman Speaker of the House and the first woman in the country's history to hold that post. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world, both by population and land area, but their former province, East Timor, which is now Timor-Leste, in its Portuguese version, was predominantly Catholic, being a former Portuguese territory until the late 1970s when Portugal gave it up because it could no longer financially support the colony. There are hundreds of Filipinos working in Timor-Leste, and the supply of ordained priests are coming mostly from the Philippines. We are going to take a break, so please stay with us.
There needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and AirCom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
It's real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using them.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, the magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. By September 30th, the Republican-led U.S. House of Representatives has to pass a major bipartisan spending bill or a short-term stopgap bill to keep the government open. And either of the options require the cooperation from McCarthy's hardliners. But those usual loud members of the so-called Attention Caucus, as many media outlets describe them, are likely not to give in on what they want. And McCarthy will have no choice but to seek the help of the Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries to have Democrats join sensible Republicans to create a simple majority to pass a budget that the Democrat-controlled Senate can approve. So here we go again, the threat of a fiscal cliff that was averted last time, because President Joe Biden had to make some compromise with the Republican House leaders. In an article in Politico magazine, the leader of the centrist Republican group in the House, who call themselves the Republican Governance Group, Congressman Dave Joyce of Ohio, was quoted saying, "At some point, we will have to deal with the reality that America is a two-party system. If we can't do it on our own, there may come a point when we want to have to deal with the Democrats." Representative Dave Joyce has been part of the House spending talks.
In the African country of Niger Republic, where a coup happened just over 2 weeks ago that had overthrown the democratically elected government, the United Nations has given the coup plotters an ultimatum to reinstate the legitimate government. President Mohamed Bazoum, who is pro-US and pro-West, was the democratically elected president. ECOWAS, the Regional Economic Community of West African States, has given the coup plotters 7 days to reinstate President Bazoum, who is being held captive by his presidential guards led by Colonel Abdurrahmani Chani, who commands the presidential guards. United Nations has stepped in also and demanded the release of and reinstatement of President Bazoum, but had given the plotters a separate demand and deadline. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed concern the coup in Mali and Burkina Faso in recent years and months is becoming a disturbing trend. According to the Guardian newspaper, the powerful ECOWAS bloc is preparing troops for Niger to enforce their demand to reinstate President Bazoum. President Tinubu of Nigeria is the current chairman of ECOWAS. France also expressed their willingness to commit troops to Niger to help enforce the UN demand on the coup plotters to end the illegitimate takeover of the government.
In a report from the Venezuelan TV network Telesur, the popular presidential candidate in Ecuador, Fernando Villavicencio Valencia, was shot dead after a rally in northern Quito, the capital of Ecuador, on August 9th last week at around 6 p.m. Fernando Valencia was a popular journalist and member of the National Assembly who was loved by many. In a large cross-section of Ecuadorian voters, was murdered by hired assassins. Police mounted an operation to locate those responsible. He was the candidate for president of the Contralista 25 movement. Hired assassins shot him on the head 3 times and was brought immediately to women's clinic, where a medical team pronounced him dead. The public announcement of his death was made by his uncle Galo Valencia, a popular promising leader lost to political violence. We are out of time for this show. Thank you for watching The Pulse. I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould.
And I'm Sam Buban from Southeast Asia, also thanking you for watching. Until next time, God bless your week.